We'll call this meeting to order for the Jefferson County Planning Commission. We'll have a roll call.
Planning Commission meeting October 4, 2022. Warren Oxshire,
Here.
David Bramer, Britt Copeland,
Here.
Ray Black,
Here.
Jenny Beverly, Lisa Hammock, here. Gene Rydell,
Here.
David Ferguson,
Here.
Mike Pittman.
Here.
All right, we have a quorum, so we'll continue with our meeting. Did you gonna have an opportunity to review our minutes from August 2nd? If so, are there any changes or corrections? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll motion.
We have a first from Ray, do we have a second? Second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of approving the minutes?
All right.
All right. We have a fairly short meeting this evening, hopefully, not a lot to report on. We'll go on to communications, and we will have Josh bring us up to date on the some of the projects he's been working on.
I've got one property I'd like to bring back to your attention out at Deputy. The Golian place, the grass, they've got Johnson grass out there that's 6 foot tall. I can't seem to get a hold of anybody. I think they've moved. I'm not getting any response. So I'd like to see what we can do, if we can go ahead and take it to court and maybe get it to where we can go in there and mow.
Is there a building or anything, or is it just strictly an empty lot?
There is one shed on the property.
Okay.
And I've talked to, who did I talk to today about the noxious weeds? Soil and water. Kristen, yes, and she said she would do some checking to see if there's anything else they could do, but she didn't think that there was. So anyway, if you wanted to look at that, here's that. I can pass it around. Then I just kind of give you an update on some of the other properties that we've got.
We'll finish on Golian's first here for
Okay.
you. What's thoughts on how to proceed on the property?
Can you refresh me on what we have
It's
done?
in Deputy, and it's a property that is very, very overgrown. And you've not had any luck on being able to, have we sent the certified letters, or?
Yes, and I had them, they got it cleaned up at one point. Talk of the neighborhood is they think that the gentleman's in jail and the father's passed away. So I'm not getting any response.
So you
it's a
have been
small
in contact
picture,
them in the past?
and I've got a couple phone numbers, but nobody's answering anymore.
What properties adjoin this?
What's that?
What properties adjoin?
There's two. It's a residential area in Deputy, right in, do you know where Front Street's at?
Yeah.
And Walnut?
Yeah.
It's right on the corner. And you can't miss it. It's on the, be on the southeast corner. You can't miss it. The Johnson grass is 6, 7 foot tall. And
there is trash out there, isn't there, or is that, what is that?
those are old pictures.
Old
The
picture.
most recent picture is that one at the top. This is the most recent. It was trash. They got it cleaned up.
It's just grass
And now it's just to the point, they got this removed. It's just to the point that
That's
there's.
gone.
That's gone. It's
Just
just
that.
overgrown grass. Yep.
I'll recommend that you go ahead and proceed toward court situation.
I mean, we can't mow without a court order saying that we can go on the property. So I think, personally, I feel like that's the next step, is to take it to court, and maybe somebody will respond. If they don't, maybe we'll get approval, get a court order that we could go in and mow, put it on their taxes every time.
How far can the county go on you when it's right on the road to mow?
I don't know how far back
Do
on the
they-
property they
do
can
they
go.
know?
I know the city is a little different. They have some ordinances in place where they can go in and mow property and then put it on the tax or spend a bill to it, but I don't know that the county has the ability to do that.
Being
without
Johnson
an ordinance.
grass, it is a noxious weed
Yeah.
for the state. I just haven't exactly found out how to proceed with that.
I would like, it may end up on the court action side, but if possible, I would like to explore any other solution. Talk with Pat McGrath, our attorney. He couldn't be here this evening. I am a little hesitant to start a court action over the grass.
Okay.
You know, we have so many that we're dealing with, lots of junks, buildings and
Okay.
so forth, and if we can come to another solution, because there's actually probably more time spent, more money spent for court action than it would cost just to mow the property. And so I don't know if we can explore another avenue of a possibility of accomplishing that.
What if he threw out the option knowing that he can't pay for it? I mean, what if he says he wants it cleaned up but can't afford it?
We aren't getting any contact is the problem, if we were
I'm not
correct.
getting any
You're not getting
contact. They're
anything out of it?
They're not answering
No.
any phone calls, or,
No.
and if what the neighborhood says is true, then they're not gonna answer.
So he could be right across the road.
It could be, I don't know.
That's what I'm looking to see if it's.
I'm open, I
And
mean,
who would we get to mow that? Would we contract
We'd
that
have
out?
to get somebody
Yeah.
contracted to do it.
Maybe just locally out there?
Commissioner Bramer, you have any thoughts on property and deputy with 5-foot-high Johnson grass as to if possible method to pursue it short of the court action?
Well, I mean, I think we have, so we're not getting any contact? I
We're
mean,
not getting any contact. The property initially had a lot of junk and so forth, and Josh got feedback, we'd sent the letters and so forth. From what he's hearing from other residents in Deputy is possibly the father that owned the property has passed away, and one of the other owners, a son or so forth, is probably incarcerated. So, I think though that we could possibly pursue, if he is incarcerated, to run that information down, find out whatever attorney is representing him, and have
Okay.
Pat send a letter to them before we go the
That's a
court
good
action.
idea.
What is his first
I
name?
mean, we have funds to clean up some
We
of
have some
that.
funds,
It
right.
shouldn't be too expensive to cut.
William is the name the property is in, is William.
But he's passed.
Yes. Chris told me that he was passed here.
Okay.
Chris William is his son.
And that's who's in, he's in jail.
He's in jail over
He's-
here.
Yeah, he's in
All
jail
right.
since August 2nd.
Well, I think that we need to probably reach out and see what we can find out who's representing Chris that's in jail and get a letter to his attorney. What's thoughts overall? Are you comfortable with that, Ray?
Yep, just any action is
Any
better than no
action.
action.
He'll have someone that's representing him.
Okay.
Do we need a motion or anything?
No, I don't think we need it in the form of a motion. All right, what else do you have for us?
All right, so going through the list, kind of properties that we've got out there. Lewis Hanlon's, we had a court case on them a couple months ago. It is finally getting cleaned up. There's still some stuff to do out there, but it's coming a long ways. Anthony Neff, out in Deputy, that place is getting, the trash is getting picked up. There's a dumpster out there at this point. Charles Townsend, we won a court case on that to tear down the house down at Deputy, and the judge gave 90 days, which will be around December 20th, I think. So I've already got somebody to do the cleanup there. Already got a bid on it, we're just waiting on the time for it. Out on Pleasant Ridge, Donald Stewart's place, he's making progress. It's still got a ways to go, but he's at least moving some cars out of there and getting them sold, and he's got a couple trailers still to clean up. Up in DuPont, Petro's place, there's 3 trailers on that place, and they've got 1 tore down and cleaned up. They still got 2 to go. Out in Chelsea, if anybody's been out there in front of the Jubilee, they've
Looks better.
They're making some headway there. There's still a lot to clean up, but at least they're making some headway. Got a couple down in Brooksburg that I've made contact with, and things are improving. Getting some good response out of them. A lot of this stuff, it takes years to get in that kind of shape, so it takes a little bit of time to get cleaned up too. Midway out at 250, I think everybody's familiar with Gilstrap's place. We've had 2 dumpsters removed, one of them that was nothing but tires, and we've got a 3rd dumpster in place right at this time. getting cleaned up, so it's made vast improvement, but there again, still got a ways to go.
Do you see any evidence that he stopped hauling new stuff in?
That's a good point.
Well, I think
He has brought some stuff in, so yes,
Okay.
we're battling that too.
And the other thing is, we did call the health department too.
Yeah.
He's got a significant septic issue and got a burn pit going, which we also reported to IDEM. So,
Okay.
I mean, he's got some issues he's got to deal with.
Yeah, it's a shame because I appreciate the amount of work that's done getting 3 dumpsters out of there, but when you drive by, you can't even tell that.
Yeah.
A whole
And
lot.
if you
It's
get
a
in
little
there,
better.
it's a lot better than,
Okay.
a ton better than it was, but yeah, as you
Yeah.
drive by, it still
Still
kind
pretty
of looks
rough.
rough. And then last week we had a trailer move in out at Chelsea, kind of across from the Jubilee, and we're dealing with that, and hopefully they're gonna be working on getting septic permits and stuff, to get the building permit before they go any farther, so. That's kind of where I'm at, and I'm sure there's a few on there that are pending and stuff that we've talked about in the past, but I didn't give a report on.
Okay. Anyone have any questions or comments for Josh?
I would tell him, he does a fantastic job.
Appreciate
I just
it.
want to compliment him on
I
a great
appreciate
job
that.
and effort you put in.
I'm trying, but sometimes it kind of seems like it's slow going, but
And separate from us, he still has all of his, the building inspection work that he does and so forth to keep up with as well. So, appreciate that. Have anything else under current business? Going on through then, under new business, bring you up to date on the revision of ordinance. The technical committee has been through everything up to this point, and the consultant is in the process of putting together the first draft that would be a completed version that will come out for the Plan Commission for further discussion, and then we will have some meetings with some various stakeholders in the community, then also a public meeting to discuss the proposed new ordinances. The major changes that we've looked at up to this point is bringing the size of a lot down from 1.71 to roughly 1.15. We currently also require 300 foot of frontage. It's being proposed to bring the frontage requirement down to 200 foot instead of 300. We're still sensitive, not wanting to see county roads stripped out, but have talked to surveyors, other realtors in the area, and the 300 foot frontage is an awful lot of road frontage to eat up for one home. And we also have talked to various counties around us, and or just even statewide, and 300 is considerably more road frontage than required elsewhere. Talked with the health department along that line as well, and it used to be concerns that if we had a septic system that went out, we needed the extra ground so they could put in a larger septic. Mike New assures us with the new systems that they have now that they would be able to go back in the same areas and build in, so 1.15 is being proposed there. Trying to think of what other major, there's some discussion over our current subdivision ordinances require that if you're going to put in a subdivision and the lots are not going to be served by a new internal road, that the minimum lot size is 20 acres per lot. And under the new proposal, it would be 10 acres per lot instead of 20. And that only comes into play where you're wanting to use existing county roads for access to your subdivision. So we had some discussion, didn't feel that we're much more likely to strip out a county road requiring 10 acres than it was when it was 20. And so, don't know, we'll see what everyone's thoughts are on that. I was trying to think, there was one other change. What am I missing on that?
We talked about the square footage of the home, which I think we
Oh,
talked about that last
there
time.
was some conversation, Ray, you'd had some concerns over the 600 square footage requirement. Right now, that has been left in place, but it would be possible that a person can apply for a variance. So we had discussions, there's probably places that a very small home or a tiny home that they call it may be appropriate, and they could ask for a variance and would probably be granted to put it in. There may be other locations that are more general that it wouldn't fit in. So right now, we are still going with the 600 square footage, which also would allow single-wide mobile homes to go in. Some counties will go up to like 1,000 square foot with the goal that they don't get single-wide mobile homes, and we're not making that change.
My question would be, why could we not go where if it's mobile, that no mobile homes could go in as far as certain size, under a certain size, instead of limiting or restricting them on the square footage?
Well, they wanted the square footage because they also run into problems. What do they call them? Are they Morton sheds that they're putting in these small sheds that aren't considered mobile? They go in on a standard foundation and so forth.
Yeah.
And yet, in reality, from what Josh and everyone tells me, we don't have anyone coming in asking for a building permit for anything under 600 square foot. You know, there just hasn't been anyone in the last probably 4 or 5 years or better that have asked for that. So it doesn't seem to be something that is a common occurrence as such. And we also have currently proposed that if they're putting in a subdivision that is going to have a density of greater than 1 house per acre, because a lot of subdivisions, they'll go as many as 4 houses per acre, that we will require curb and sidewalk. And there were examples of where subdivisions have went in, and in Madison, and you go up, they're very, very nice subdivisions, but in the morning, the evenings, it's unbelievable the number of people that are out walking in the streets. And that there seemed to be a need for a requirement on sidewalks, so we'll see what the...
Warren, did you get anywhere or on the assessment on solar panels and what have you?
From what I have heard so far, and bring everybody up to date, we're very limited as to what we can require and not require on solar farms. The state has some guidelines and so forth, but some of the counties that David had talked to, it came up with the idea that they were going to require the property zoning to be changed from agricultural to industrial or commercial. And the reason for that was that, well, if we can get it zoned agricultural or industrial, commercial, it'll be subject to a higher tax rate. Because on the surface, agricultural rate is set by the state, industrial is set locally. But when I talk to the assessor's office and they check at state levels, they go on the use of the land, not what it is zoned for.
Okay.
And so they did not think that that was really going to be any gain in being able to get a higher tax revenue. And they were going to check further. The assessor's office was going to check with the state and so forth as to what their guidelines were on it. But the state has been still wanting to be sure they refer to them as solar farms, not like solar industrial generating stations.
Yeah.
So I don't know how that's going to come down.
The way I understand it too, after talking to some of the solar companies, is they get billed as personal property.
They will for all the equipment that
All
goes on.
the equipment
Yes.
goes on, and then the landowner gets billed for the property.
Yes.
So it's 2 different
Yes, it'd be
bills.
2 different bills there. And so there would be another downside to that. The landowner that had his agricultural ground would not want it to stay industrial if the solar pulls out. And in our solar ordinance side of it, we do have language that requires a bond be posted that would pay for enough dollars to clean the property up if 20 years or 30 years from now, the solar company would move out and not remove and so forth. It's to put it back to its original state. There's certain setback requirements and certain planning requirements that are there and so forth. But it's pretty much what we've got so far models what the state of Indiana and Purdue has came up with pretty solid guidelines. I think the attempt is to get somewhat of a standardization across the state. So. We'll be getting all that out to you all as soon as they get the first rough draft, and then we'll move forward on that. So far, we're on our schedule to probably have things completed by the end of this year or the first of next.
Question on new home building. If sewer is available, are you required to hook onto the sewer versus
Josh,
septic?
can you answer that? I don't know, under state law, you may be required
One
to.
more time, I didn't catch your question.
If there's public sewer available,
Are you
are
required?
you required to hook onto it?
Or can you go septic?
I'm not 100% sure on that. I think if it's available there, that you have to hook to it. I'm pretty sure.
Well, I know at DuPont, there's some houses that go by the sewer line, and they didn't hook onto it, but that's the DuPont
It's already
community.
existing. They were already existing.
Right, existing. but-
No, this was new.
New? Okay.
They put in a new house with sewer there, you're saying?
It goes through their property, yes, but they didn't have to put in a septic. I mean, when I say new, it's probably been at 10, 15, but the sewer at DuPont's been there forever. But I don't know,
Yeah,
but
I'm
maybe
not
they
100%
didn't, nobody followed the rules then, so I don't know.
Sometimes that happens to me.
And I don't know, there may be something in the state guidelines. I know that, for example, when Rikers Ridge Sewer went in,
Yeah.
there was a mandate that I believe those homes had to hook on even if they had a working septic system. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So I'm not
But
quite
now,
certain.
that's existing, but if a new construction would come in, and he has the availability, I mean, he has the land for a septic system, is he required still?
I don't know that. We don't have, to the best of my knowledge, we do not have anything in our zoning ordinances making that a requirement.
Okay.
And I'm not positive that if that is a requirement, that the zoning ordinances would be the place for it. May or may not be, we'd have to, do you have a preference?
Well, septic is kind of pricey to hook onto,
You mean the sewer?
or the sewer, I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's, yeah. Now, I don't know what that, I'm not a builder, I don't know what it would cost to put a septic system in, but I'm thinking it's cheaper than the hooking onto the sewer, but there again, you gotta think long-term, what property value would be when you're hooked onto the sewer
Right.
versus septic. Okay,
5 years ago, when I heard discussion on that, it was the cost of a septic tank to hook on was probably about half as much as tying into the septic line at that time.
okay.
I don't know anything since.
We'll have some discussions on that.
Okay.
See.
I'm curious.
Any questions, anything further on the ordinance revision? Mike, what do you have for us on stormwater update?
We got our disaster emergency declaration from the governor. I don't know if everybody's seen it. Basically, we got, Josh and I and Bobby Little went out and did a survey in the county for the DNR, because the Indiana DNR has to basically approve anything that's in the flood zone if we get any rebuilds. And so far, no one's requested any, which doesn't surprise me. Most of the structures were sitting right alongside the creek. And basically, the only thing that's there now is creek stone. So everything's gone. We just washed it all out. So, but that gives us 30 more days that we can look at things. But Troy Morgan has been a big help. And Josh, we used his side-by-side. Not because it was fun, because there were no roads to drive.
That's what they all say.
Yeah, but it was amazing. They said that some of the folks we talked to out there said Sunday after the flood, it was like a side-by-side free-for-all out there. They had people running all over the place. It was a pretty tough flood out there.
So the commissioners and plan commission, we did the resolution to waive a building permit fee. So I'm asking, how is it if they would had a loss and they're building back in a different location altogether, will you still waive the fee in that situation?
I don't know, I'd have to double check that, because I think the
Okay.
language said it has to be around the same
Hey, okay,
square foot or same footprint.
all right. I
But
wasn't sure how
we
that
could go
was
back
here.
and
'Cause
look the
it's
details
sounding like
on
it's gonna be
that.
very unlikely that many would be able,
In that same area,
would be able to
right.
build back, meet
Right.
the same area.
I think we only had 2 structures that were completely washed away. And then we
Okay.
did have some damage to a couple of the pole barns, but that's going to be pretty much handled by the individual owner. They've applied for insurance, and the insurance is basically not covering it, so, which is not a surprise here in the
No,
flood.
flood normally doesn't cover.
So it's a pretty tough situation, but and I was at a floodplain meeting a couple weeks ago, and one of the things they're doing is a lot of counties are doing surveys and inventories of what properties are in flood danger in the county. And that might be something, Dave, we might want to add to our survey or our group. I think it's something that could really help. I just complimented you, by the way. So, you don't believe me. But Josh was a big help in doing that, and Bobby Little was a big help.
Do creeks,
He kept getting lost.
any creek designation, any creeks have a floodplain in it to itself?
They are, depends on where you are, Gene. I mean, it's really difficult to say because a lot of those areas were not in a flood zone, but when you get a 9.5-inch rain in 3 hours, it's gonna come down. That's basically what happened. And so it's one of these things we have to help people who have structures next to a creek understand the danger that they face and help them flood-proof if we can. And there are certain things that the DNR has put together to help them do that.
But there's no restriction to keep them, not to keep them from building back or because they being in a floodplain.
One of the, well, if they're in a special flood hazard area, I think one of them was. I think one of them
You
was.
could have flood hazard areas that are prohibited, that would be along a creek,
Yeah.
not just along rivers and so
Yeah,
forth.
so
They're not as well laid out as what it is along the Ohio River, but there are areas that would be coming from separate flooding than the Ohio River being up.
The other thing, the state of Indiana, July 1st, has, and Indiana DNR has mapped a lot of the creeks, and a lot of the areas that FEMA has not. So basically, what they're saying is the FEMA maps may or may not be correct. The maps we have to go by now are the Indiana floodplain maps, and they've got their own floodplain portal now. And we have to use those maps when Josh issues permits now. So somebody may get on the FEMA map and say, I'm not in the flood zone, and they may get on the Indiana map, and they are. So it's something we have to help adjudicate when they come in. But that just became effective July 1st.
Do we have anything in our verbiage that we state that we have to go by that so they don't try to, on the floodplain? I
We
mean,
can't issue a permit unless DNR approves
and
it.
DNR only approves it off of the, okay,
Yeah. So that's how we cover it, Dave.
through DNR.
Through DNR.
Anyone have anything else this evening? Our next meeting's when, Lynette?
November 1st.
November 1st, falls quick in the month, they don't go around.
Yep.
All right. If no one has anything else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Have a first, all in
Make a second,
favor?
too.
Aye.